I'd like to call the Planning Stakeholders Relation Committee meeting to order. Members of the committee, could you please identify yourselves?
Allie Doyle.
Tom Bergender.
Other board members, can you please identify yourself? Bobby Grant.
Joe Cotton.
Tia McLean.
Emma Schuker.
Lori Mizgorski.
Nick Piscitano.
Jen Liptak.
Great. Approval of the minutes. The minutes from the June meeting for this committee has been circulated. Unless anyone has any questions or corrections, I would like a motion to approve those minutes. Motion? Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say yay. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now have a presentation from Philip St. Pierre concerning the PRT's planned October schedule change. Mr. Pierre.
Thank you. Good morning, committee members. I'm Philip St. Pierre. I'm the Director of Transit Scheduling here at PRT. And today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the upcoming October 20th, 2024 service changes. So we do have some routing changes in October. The Route 7 is going to see new downtown routing for weekdays, which it only runs on weekdays. The 19L as well, we'll see new downtown routing. I do have maps for each of these changes to go in more detail. The 29, the route will terminate at CCAC West instead of Pittsburgh Technical College, and that's due to the Pittsburgh Technical College closing in August. So it will be putting that route on detour in advance of the October service changes, but then it'll become effective with the October service changes. The Route G2 will be extended to Penn Station in the downtown area. The P12, P16, and P67 will see new downtown routing. The P78 will have some trips, 10 inbound trips and 12 outbound trips that will either start or end at Harmer Park and Ride. And we'll be establishing a new rail route beginning in October. We're calling it the Subway Local. This route will be established to support some upcoming rail projects that will begin in January, but we'll have to implement it beginning in October, and it will also help. The Subway Local will also be there to help with the upcoming Mount Washington tunnel closure that will be beginning early next year. All right, so here's a map of the Route 7. Some of the graphics may be a little difficult to see, but I will go through the details here. The Route 7, when it's inbound into downtown, we use 9th Street, turn on right on Liberty Avenue and right on 7th Street on its outbound direction. Route 19L, we use Fort Duquesne Boulevard, right on Stanwix, left on Liberty, right on 7th Street, and left on Grant Street to go from to and from Penn Station. So the terminus will be Penn Station for the 19L.
Welcome to the audio conferencing center. Please enter a conference ID. After the tone, please record your name and then press pound.
Sorry, folks, we're gonna try to mute whoever.
Now
Okay.
joining
All
the
right.
meeting.
The Route 29, as I stated before, it's
This
going to be
meeting
short.
is being recorded and or transcribed.
We'll be terminating at CCAC West due to the PTC's closure. The Route G2 will stay on Liberty in the downtown area and traverse to Penn Station. The P12, P16, and P67 will operate from the East Busway to Liberty Avenue, left on Smithville Street, left on 5th Avenue, and left on Grant Street to return to Busway. The P78 will.
To unmute yourself, press *6.
The
We don't need to do this is.
That was me
78.
because I can't put my sound on. I had to mute myself on my phone. I can't, I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know what happened. I know I turned it on. My speaker is not working. I didn't know if it was,
Kathy, we hear you.
like, I went into my Sam's. Let me tell me if she can hear me.
Kathy, please mute.
I think we've got that situated. All right, the P78 will have 10 inbound trips and 12 outbound trips that either end or begin at Harbor Park Ride, and it will use the Alpha Drive loop to service Harbor Park Ride. Can you advance to the next slide? I don't know if this clicker is working or not. All right, Subway Local, beginning in October, will service provide service between Allegheny Station and South Hills Junction. When the Plinth Repair Project resumes in January of 2025, this route will temporarily terminate at one of the downtown stations, depending on where the work is in progress at that time. All right, so we have some running time adjustments. These are slight changes to the schedules to help improve on-time performance and reliability. The following routes will see daily adjustments for every service day that the route operates. So it's going to be the Route 16, the 40, 43, 56, 57, 64, 67, 81, 83, 91, and 93. The following routes will have weekday only running time changes, and that's going to be the Route 7, the 19L, the 31, 53L, 65, 69, 79, the G31, P12, P17, P67, and P69. And the following two routes will have weekend changes for Saturday and Sunday, and that's going to be the Route 1 and 53. So we do have some frequency changes. The Route 1 on weekdays will be going from every 30 minutes to 35 minutes all day up until 9 p.m., where it will remain hourly service until the end of service. The 57 on weekdays currently ranges between 45 to 53 minutes. That has been changed to 50 minutes all day. The 82 is going from 20 minutes to 15 minutes in the morning and the afternoon peak. The 83 on weekdays is going from 38 minutes to 40 minutes all day long on weekdays. And then on Saturdays on the 83, the frequency is going from 48 minutes to 50 minutes all day. The P1 frequency on weekdays has been upgraded to 8 minutes, or from 8 minutes to 6 minutes in the afternoon peak. And on Saturday, the frequency currently is at 15 minutes and is going to 12 minutes in the early afternoon. We do have some variant changes. So this is some changes to which and how many trips operate on a specific variant of a given route. Sometimes this is short variants versus long variants of routes. The 75, the first two trips and last two trips have been shortened to begin in Morningside. The 77 daily on the inbound variant has been revised to end at Liberty Avenue near Wyndham Grand Hotel. The P3 on weekdays, 2 afternoon inbound trips will start at the East Liberty Station. P10, the last 2 morning trips have been revised to end at the Liberty Avenue near Wyndham Grand Hotel stop to interline with the Route 77 after its layover. The P69 on weekdays, outbound trips will start at Penn Station stop C. And P78 on weekdays, some morning trips will terminate at Liberty Avenue and Market Street. Remaining trips will start and end at Penn Station stop C. You have one span of service change, and that's the Route 67 on weekends. The span of service has been extended approximately about 1 hour later for both days on Saturday and Sunday. This provides increased service to Forbes Hospital. The last trip will depart at 11:27 p.m. on Saturdays, and the last trip will depart 9:21 p.m. on Sundays. You have some trip time adjustments. This is a variety of changes. Sometimes we're shifting trips where they start and end to better block trips and piece trips together. It's the Route 17 on weekdays. Some afternoon trips have been shifted to 2 to 10 minutes later. The 54 on weekdays, we had 2 round trips added in the afternoon peak to address some crowding. The 61D and the 71B, we have swapped their inbound arrival times at Atwood Station. This is largely due to trying to see if we can address some crowding in the morning time frame on the 71B, but we're also looking to see if we can better stagger the service on the 61D from Homestead and the 71B for better stagger service along Fifth Avenue. The 71 on weekdays, some trips have been adjusted in the midday. The 71A, 2 round trips have been added in the morning peak to address crowding. The 71C, 2 round trips have been added in the morning peak to address crowding. And the 75 weekday, 1 round trip has been added in the morning to address crowding. And continuing with the trip time adjustments, the 77 daily outbound trips, trip times have been adjusted by approximately 2 minutes later. The 77 weekday inbound trips have been adjusted approximately 12 minutes later to allow layover at CCAC Boyce for this route. The 89 on weekdays, some inbound and outbound trips have been shifted by 5 minutes later to allow airlining with the Route 74. And the 012 on weekdays, some afternoon trips have been shifted between 1 to 3 minutes. The P16 on weekdays, inbound and outbound trips have been shifted approximately 4 minutes earlier due to new downtown routing. And the P71 morning trips have been shifted approximately 7 minutes earlier. So that concludes my presentation today for the upcoming changes in October. I know we're a few months out, but we don't have an August meeting, so we wanted to maybe a late agenda today. But I will answer any questions that you may have today, and we'll start there.
Thank you. Do any committee members or other board members have questions?
I actually do. I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bobby Hannon, new to the board. Just for, my edification, I'm just curious what the process is when you have new routing in terms of posting notice, both in the AVL system, but also on stops and the feed that goes out for customers. Is there a standard process that centralizes all that and make sure every stop has that reroute?
Yes, so there's a variety of tasks for every service change that we do. Approximately about 30 days prior to the service change, public notice goes out via our website, and we'll put up poll cards at each of the stops that are being impacted for changes via the GTFS and the real-time information. That's typically, I think, 2 to 3 weeks in advance. That will go be posted to our website, which then gets picked up by feeds such as the transit app or other third-party apps will pick up that feed, and they'll do their processes. We'll update our internal Clever Devices True Time in advance of the service change. We'll also have, depending on what change is going into effect, we'll have staff out there. We have internal staff, customer service folks that will go out to individual stops or stations and brief customers on changes. So there's a variety of different processes that are put in place in advance of a service change to help our customers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Tom has a question.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Tom Bergender, and I'm also new to the board. My question doesn't relate directly to the issues that you've raised this morning, but I'm curious, the buses that travel along Smithfield Street and then, on Wood Street and then turn back onto Smithfield Street. The 41 goes to Penn Station on Wood Street, and then a separate run comes in along Smithfield Street. Do any of the other routes that travel those corridors do the same thing?
Nothing's coming to my mind immediately, but I can look into that and we can give you that. We'll look into that and give you the information and send you an email and reach out to you about that. I don't think that nothing's coming to mind about which routes are split up like that, but I'll take a look.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's the end of the agenda for today's committee meeting. Once again, I would like to welcome the new board members, and if there's nothing further, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Representative Nick Piscatana. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee. Other members of this committee, could you please identify yourselves?
Jen Liptak.
Emma
Joe
Schuker.
Tom.
Other board members, could you please identify yourselves?
Allie Doyle.
Tina McClenny.
Lori
Stephanie.
Mizgorski.
Von Bergender.
Bobby Fan.
Stephanie Turman.
Thank you. The minutes from the June meeting of this committee have been circulated. Unless anyone has any questions or corrections, I'd ask for a motion to approve these minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. We have a series of resolutions before the committee today. The first resolution is a request for authorization to enter into a contribution agreement with the City of Pittsburgh for Brushton Station ETOD project. Ms. Silberman, can you please kindly present this resolution?
Absolutely. Thank you, Committee Chairperson, and good morning, committee members, and welcome to our new board members. My name is Amy Silberman. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at PRT, and I have a fund resolution for everyone this morning for authorization to enter into a contribution agreement with the City of Pittsburgh for our Brushton Station Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Project. In July of 2023, our staff presented to the board our Wilkinsburg-Brushton Station Area Plan, which proposes a redesign of our Wilkinsburg Station and a new Brushton Station be added to the MLK East Busway between North Braddock and Brushton Avenues, and that we do equitable transit-oriented development on our Wilkinsburg Park and Ride site. This plan also recommended that we pursue that joint development work with our municipal partners on ETOD, what we call equitable transit-oriented development, infrastructure and anti-displacement initiatives to ensure that our final design and construction of this station in the future provides maximum benefits for the surrounding community, including historically disadvantaged populations. The City of Pittsburgh, subject to approval by City Council, has expressed an interest in contributing $100,000 to support our project here, to incorporate some additional analysis and recommended actions that the city can take to further catalyze that ETOD on adjacent properties that they may own, as well as public rights of way around this proposed future station area to create safe connections and other programmatic or policy actions that will help support a new Brushton station. So this authorization would authorize PRT to complete negotiations and enter into a contribution agreement with the City of Pittsburgh in a form approved by our legal counsel. So subject to any questions that members may have about this, I would respectfully request that the Finance Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any board member have any questions for Ms. Silberman? Seeing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
So moved.
So moved. I'll second that. This is Jen second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next resolution is request for authorization to extend and amend an agreement for utility consulting and administrative support services. Ms. Brown, could you please present this resolution?
Yes, good morning, committee and board members. My name is Dominica Brown. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at PRT. In March 2021, PRT issued a request for proposal number 2101 to obtain a qualified vendor to provide utility consulting and administrative services to be utilized on an as-needed basis. These services are services that essentially assist us with managing all of our utilities, the utilization of them, negotiating rates, things of that nature. Eric Ryan Corporation in June 2021 was awarded the contract. It was for an initial term of 3 years and not to exceed amount of $187,200. The agreement has an expiry date of August 31, 2024, with 2 one-year option years to be exercised by PRT at its sole discretion. And to date, the services have been satisfactory and in compliance with the agreement. PRT has determined it is in the agency's best interest to exercise the first option year, which will extend the agreement to August 31, 2025, and will increase the total authorized not to exceed amount by $68,000. This resolution will authorize PRT to extend the term of agreement for 1 additional year through August 31st, 2025, and increase the not to exceed amount from $187,200 to $255,200. So subject to any questions that committee members may have, I respectfully request that the Finance Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Does any board member have any questions for Ms. Brown? Seeing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
Moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. The
Thank
next
you.
resolution is a request for authorization to proceed to public comment period for fiscal year 2025 proposed fair policy change. Ms. Brown, can you kindly present this resolution?
All right, so in 2023, PRT received a grant from the Highlands Endowment to conduct a universal pass pilot study. 4 employers participated in that pilot with 113 passes being issued for employee use. There were pre and post surveys conducted by the pilot participants, and utilization was also evaluated through PRT's Ready to Ride app. Initial results of the pilot showed that passes were highly valued, increased transit use, and influenced job choice. And all participating employers were eager to continue the program. PRT used an external fair consultant to review the pilot findings and provide insight into similar programs at other transit agencies and assisted in creating a permanent universal pass program. The program is called PRT Partner Pass and will be offered to employers, secondary and post-secondary schools who are not eligible for our current university pass program, and residential apartment owners with over 10 eligible employees, students, or units. Each entity will purchase monthly passes at a $28 price point for 100% of eligible participants. That's just over a 70% discount on the monthly pass rate. Further details of the program are available in Exhibit A, including additional information on exclusions. This resolution will authorize PRT to proceed with a formal public comment period, including a public hearing, which will commence on August 12th and end October 11th of 2024. Subject to any questions that committee members may have, I respectfully request that the Finance Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions for Ms. Brown?
Yes, I have one question, Mrs. Bobby. on here it just states that there's passes available through the Ready to Ride app. Are they, just for my clarification, is it also made available in the card form as well?
So, okay.
Dominica knows this, but in case there's more questions, we are especially for our newer board members, we're transitioning from the old Connect cards over to the Masabi system, and Jeffrey Devlin, our Chief Innovation Officer, can also answer more questions. So the Universal Pass program would be available with both, correct?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, since we're in the transition from the old clunky, I mean, don't say dumb cards, but the Connect cards are just, hi, I'm active, as opposed to the new cards will be tied to an account. So if someone loses them, it's much easier to replace, so on and so forth. So when that transition is fully effected, then both of these fair media would be included in that.
Great.
Which you probably were gonna say.
Any other questions? Yes.
Tom Bergender, I have a question about the implementation of this program. As I read the resolution, it seems as though if an apartment building owner or school decides to embark on the program, they have to determine the total number of their eligible potential users, and they have to purchase a number of passes that equate with that number. And then it would be their job then to sell those passes at this reduced rate to the people who would use the passes. Am I correct? Is that my understanding?
So the program is more so a benefit to employers or tenants or students as opposed to something that's sold to them. So not necessarily sold to them, no, if that answers your question.
All right, so then perhaps once the entity purchases these passes, they might give them to eligible people to use for the buses or team. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you're not getting pushback from entities who say, I don't want to buy 100 because I have potentially 100?
Well, it would be up to the entity to decide whether or not they want to provide the benefit to their students or employees. We do allow, or we will allow, for certain exceptions, if it makes sense for certain groups of employees, for instance, for the employer not to have to purchase passes for particular groups. However, it's on a case-by-case basis.
And allow me to amplify, board member, the intent of this is to have a system where if you are at an apartment complex, an employer, some large entity, and every single person in that entity, whether it's their employees or, 300 residents of the complex, everyone is considered eligible in return for a deeply discounted price. So what we're test driving here is instead of a monthly pass being $97.50, it would be vended at $28. And now our hope is that an employer would then provide this benefit to every employee they have. They can choose if they want to ask the employee to pay $10 or $20. One of our rules is they cannot exceed our price on it. So if they choose to purchase it at $28 and tell their employee you can buy this for $28, okay, but we are requiring everyone to participate. And then we have built in that we will come back after a certain window of time, in an 18-month window, to see how we're matching up utilization versus cost. So clearly we don't want a situation where 70% of the folks are participating at a $28 price, and a business doesn't want to have, well, I have 3 people out of 200 and I'm paying $28 per everybody. Our intent on this is to really incentivize folks being able to take transit, whether it's every single day or for discretionary trips. And for the entities we've spoken to, increasingly, for instance, downtown, places that are leasing out are saying, hey, if we could get this blanket benefit, that would be really helpful for us. But do we really have to pay $97 per each person? So we're going forward with this program at this time. Things we will bring back to you for future consideration will be perhaps a bulk pass. So maybe this place doesn't want to cover every single tenant, but they want to buy 20 passes or 30 passes a month in a big bulk. Is their intention of offering a discount? But this is our first step into this. We will give you a discount to incentivize more people participating. We've also looked at what our friends are doing at other agencies. The SEPTA pass, I believe, is $32-ish.
It's a range. It depends on which
It's a
mode of
range, right.
transportation they're using, but about that.
So we've looked at what our friends, other transit agencies are doing to make sure that we're within the market, but we're also not missing out on that folks who are here in Allegheny County aren't missing on a program that could be beneficial. For instance, the YWCA has 35 employees, maybe 28 or 29 of them take transit. Is there a benefit that we can do that can help out for them? So just make sure that our folks here have as many options as possible to be able to participate in our network. I'll turn it back over to Dominica.
I have another question. How was the price point arrived at? Was it influenced by the fact that so many people are now only coming into town, for example, 2 or 3 days a week?
So we looked at what other agencies were doing, and generally, based on like the tenure and the success of the program, they're able to discount the passes further. We compared very closely to SEPTA, and their range is about $28 to $32. And we, through our pilot, the results that we got from that showing just how frequently the participants rode. Whenever the employer purchases passes for everyone, everyone doesn't necessarily use the service, so there's a give and a take there for us. The reason that we have the 18-month starting point is so that once we do have greater participation, we're able to collect more data, we'll reassess the price point, maybe introduce other structures to the program, but that's just the starting point that we're going with for now.
Thank you. Any more questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board next week?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we have a presentation of a planned new light rail vehicle procurement and financing plan. Ms. Brown and Ms. Silverman, can you kindly make this presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you. And good morning again, everyone. I'm just going to start with a little preamble on our light rail vehicles and then turn it back over to Dominica to talk about our authorization for today. But as some of you may know, we go to the, oh, it is working now. Some of you may know our light rail cars are not new. So in the world of buses, our buses last about 12 years here in the land of public transit. Light rail cars are generally able to last significantly longer. However, we have 2 different fleets of rail cars. We have 53 cars that are 39 years old already, and the other 28 rail cars are 20 years old. So the average age of our fleet right now is about 33 years. The useful life benchmark that the Federal Transit Administration uses for rail cars is 31 years. They do last significantly longer than buses, and they are significantly more expensive as well. The process to design, deliver an initial car, build out all of those cars, and make sure that we have the right thing moving forward is a 10 to 12 year process. It's a very, very lengthy process. So our team actually already started last year with some very high level design processes towards acquiring new rail cars. And also, unlike buses, which have a lot of federal programs to help offset the capital cost of acquiring those, we do not have similar processes in place for rail cars. And so we need to move towards financing those new rail cars here over the next couple of years. So by the time we complete this design, build, and deliver process for our new fleet, if we are able to successfully move through the financing process, our rail cars will be 45 years old on average, and that will be in the year 2035. So a very long horizon here that we are dealing with, and why we're coming to you today before we've really done too much of anything yet. So I wanted to just anticipate the question of, well, why can't we just keep overhauling or rebuilding our rail cars? You know, we of course have a fantastic trolley museum here in Western Pennsylvania. There are trains that can exist for many, many decades. Why can't we keep doing that? There are several problems and several challenges that come the older our fleet gets. So we did conduct a formal study in 2019 to see if we could do a major overhaul again to our fleets. And what it determined is that it would be feasible to do one more major overhaul, but that would simply be extending the need for new about another 15 years. So we already would need to be moving towards this design process that we are doing now. And prolonging a replacement more continues to add on things like inflation, which have been a challenge over the last couple of years. It risks having some of our spare parts become obsolete and us not being able to acquire those spare parts. It increases unreliability on the trains. It strains our maintenance teams and staff, and it risks us starting to have to cannibalize parts from existing rail cars to keep the other rail cars working, which could mean that we may not be able to meet our peak service needs. So we are moving down the pathway now of starting to look for financing options for these new rail cars. And with that, I will turn it over to Dominica to talk about the financing.
Alrighty. So as we consider the purchase of new rail cars, we worked with our consultants, PFM, to come up with a financing plan for those rail cars. For a little bit of our current situation, we currently have one outstanding bond issue, the Series 2020 Special Revenue Transportation Bonds, and the annual debt service for those are about $18.6 million. The series and those bonds will be fully paid in 2029. Given what Amy mentioned about the long lead time for light rail vehicle manufacturing, the cash flows can vary widely over the 10+ years needed to procure, design, manufacture, test, and accept the new rail cars. So we've investigated the following financing options. We looked at Transportation Infrastructure Financing and Innovation Act loans, federal loans, TIFIA loan, which will be secured by a state and a local source, and the motor vehicle sales tax bonds, which are part of the asset improvement programs, and that's a state source, and also Garvey bonds, grant anticipation revenue vehicle bonds, secured by federal formula funds. So the initial plan that we currently have is that the financing would consist of a combination of a TIFIA loan, which can be up to 49% of eligible project costs, and a motor vehicle sales tax bond. This plan is subject to change based on market conditions. Both sources of financing would potentially be secured by Commonwealth motor vehicle sales tax proceeds through PennDOT. Some of the benefits of TIFIA are that they have a drawdown capacity on an as-needed basis, and the low cost of borrowing is linked to U.S. Treasury rates at the time of the loan agreement execution. Interest payments can be deferred for up to 5 years after the project is complete, and principal payments can be deferred for up to 10 years after the project is complete. And I mentioned that transit projects can borrow up to 49% of eligible project costs for rail. Does anyone have any questions before I get into the resolution? No, great. So based on our current market conditions, the most fiscally advantageous financial plan with low interest expense would include a mix of TIFIA financing with 2 bond issues. The TIFIA financing provides debt service flexibility and based on current market conditions and has the potential to save PRT over $65 million in debt service expense over a 35-year payback period. The resolution will permit PRT to submit a TIFIA letter of interest and any other necessary application materials for a not to exceed amount of $390 million. The TIFIA letter of interest is not binding. It involves minimal administrative fees. And once the letter is reviewed, PRT may receive an invitation to apply. And of course, for any bond issuances that we have, once we obtain the TIFIA, board approval would be required. So subject to any questions that committee members may have, I respectfully request that the Finance Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Does any board member have any questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. The final agenda item for the Finance Committee today is a review of the June financial statements. Ms. Brown.
Thank you very much. So for June 2024, we'll start with the passenger revenue trends. June revenue has been higher than April and May, which is great because April and May were kind of flat. We're looking at revenues for June 2024. I would like to mention that June is the end of our fiscal year. These are unaudited financials. So there will be changes with the audit potentially, but also we still have accruals and things like that to make for the expenses. For revenues for the month of June, we're about $1.4 million below budget, and that is due to lower fares than budgeted. And for expenses, about $11 million below budgeted expenses, primarily due to lower wages and benefits due to vacancies. Subsidies for the month of June are $25.7 million above the budgeted amounts, and that is primarily due to preventative maintenance, higher state revenue than budgeted. For our year-to-date, June 2024, revenues are about $2.3 million below budgeted. That is due to lower fares, lower access, and lower advertising revenue. However, in comparison to 2023, we're $7.8 million higher than this year, primarily due to higher fares and higher interest income. Expenses in June are $44.4 million below budgeted, again, due to wages and benefits primarily, and $22 million higher in expenses this year compared to 2023, and that is due to higher wages and benefits. Subsidies for the June, year-to-date June, are $80.9 million higher than budgeted. Again, that is due to state operating assistance being higher than budgeted, as well as preventative maintenance invoicing being higher in CRISA federal funding. Compared to 2023, we're about $13.1 million higher. And again, that is primarily due to higher state operating assistance. For the month of June, PRT began the month with $391.2 million in operating reserves. During the month, cash inflows totaled $59.8 million. That included $28.8 million in CRISA funding, $3.3 million from the Commonwealth, and $11 million from Allegheny County. During June, PRT had cash outflows of $46.2 million and ended the month with $404.8 million in operating reserves. As a final mention, our federal stimulus invoicing is almost complete. We have about $10.2 million left in CRISA funding, and we expect to invoice the balance of that once we have accrued necessary expenses for the end of year salaries and benefits and things of that nature. And that is all that I have for my financial report. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for everyone's presentations during the committee meeting today. That is the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. The Finance Committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll give everyone a moment to get their papers or iPads ready. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Performance Oversight Committee. The first agenda item is a roll call for our committee members.
Nick Piscitano.
Okay, thank you. And would other board members please identify themselves?
Emma Schuker.
Joe
Liptak.
Allie Doyle.
Bobby Fan.
Stephanie Terman.
Tom Burgundy.
Okay, thank you. The minutes from the June meeting of this committee have been circulated. Unless anyone has any questions or corrections, I'll ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, the first resolution is for the approval of bid awards. Keisha Brown, could you please report on this resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair. Good morning, and good morning, other honorable members of the committee and the board. Procurement has 9 items to present today to request approval. In addition, Madam Chair, I wanted to preference it with a new approach that we have in procurement, that we wanted to present upcoming procurement opportunities in the next 6 months at the conclusion of the presentation of the 9 items with your approval.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The first item that we have is for wiper arm assemblies. This was B24-05-43A. It was publicly advertised in e-business and documents were distributed. 152 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity and 5 suppliers accepted the invitation and 5 bids were received to furnish and deliver front windshield wiper arm assembly utilized on PRT's Gillick transit coaches over a 2-year period with no renewal options available. It is procurement's recommendation that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Mohawk Manufacturing Supply Company, in the estimated amount of $131,600. This price represents a 5% increase over the previous contract prices for these products 2 years ago. Staff have determined that the price seemed to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Next item is for antifreeze ready-to-use coolant. This is B24-05-44A. It was publicly advertised in e-business and documents were distributed. 286 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received to supply original equipment manufacturer OEM approved premix coolant antifreeze delivered in bulk to be utilized in the maintenance of PRT's bus fleet and highway vehicle equipment Cummins diesel engines over a 2-year period with no renewal options available. It is procurement's recommendation that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, PPC Lubricants, an estimated amount of $353,700. This price represents a 1% increase over the previous contract prices for these products 2 years ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The next item, number 3, is for coach radiator assemblies. This is solicitation B24-05-45A. It was publicly advertised in e-business. Documents were distributed. 227 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity, and 1 supplier accepted the invitation. And the 1 bid was received to furnish and deliver replacement radiator assemblies for Cummins diesel engines and PRT's older New Flyer bus fleet over a 1-year period with no renewal options available. In accordance with the procurement policies and procedure, a single bid survey was conducted and 6 firms stated that they were unable to bid competitively. Another firm was interested, but they were not prepared to commit at the time due to some issues with being understaffed. However, this potential bidder did convey that they would consider this opportunity in the future. Procurement recommends that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, the Aftermarket Parts Company LLC, in an estimated amount of $298,198.25. The pricing represents a 13.6% increase over the previous contract prices for these products 1 year ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with funds budgeted. Item number 4 is portable toilet rental services. This is B24-05-42A. It was publicly advertised in e-business. Documents were distributed. 99 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity and 3 suppliers accepted the invitation. PRT received 3 bids to provide on-call portable toilet services and human waste removal services at various PRT locations over a 3-year period with no renewal options available. Procurement recommends that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Johnny O. The Spot, in the estimated amount of $199,547.94. The pricing represents a 78% increase over the previous contract prices for these products and services 3 years ago. The grand total of these services were 6% below the independent cost estimate, which accounted for these factors. Staff have determined that pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the budget. Item number 5 is articulated bus bellows. Solicitation number B24-05478 was publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. 146 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted and 2 bids were received to furnish and deliver the replacement parts for the bellows of the PRT's new flyer articulated coaches over a 2-year period with no renewal options available. This is a multi-award contract, and procurement is recommending that a multi-award contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidders as following lines of the contract. This was a total solicitation of 18 lines. Dynatech Manufacturing, Inc. Recommendation is to award lines 1 through 10 in the estimated total of $378,104. Second awardee, the Aftermarket Parts Company, for line items 11 through 18, the estimated total of $163,441.40. The pricing for line items 1 through 18 represents the total contract value pricing of 39% decrease over the previous contract prices for these products 2 years ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Item number 6 is for overhead power cable. This is B24-0549. It was publicly advertised in e-business. Documents were distributed to 480 suppliers and they were all notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted invitation and PRT received 1 bid. To furnish and deliver number 2 OT, which represents the thickness of the cable, AWG, which represents American Wire Gauge, and number 4 AWG power cable for aerial installation of PRT's light rail transit system over a 90-day period with no renewal options available. In accordance with the procurement policies and procedure, a single bid survey was conducted. And while one firm stated that they did not supply these materials, others were unable to meet the specifications. So procurement is recommending that the contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Millrail, in the estimated amount of $221,768.75. There has been no previous contract for these components, but staff have determined that the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Item number 7 is Cummins ISL replacement parts. This is bid number B24-05-48A. It was publicly advertised in e-business, and the documents were distributed to 188 suppliers. Were notified of the opportunity and 2 suppliers accepted the invitation. PRT received 2 bids, and it was to furnish and deliver Cummins ISL engine replacement parts utilized in the maintenance of PRT's bus fleet over a 2-year period with no renewal options available. Procurement recommends that the contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Cummins Inc., in the estimated amount of $5,838,157.49. There has been no previous contract for this requirement contract. These replacement components are required for newly acquired bus fleets, and these requirements have now been determined to be at contract threshold. Staff has determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The next item, number 8, is removal and disposal of solid waste and sludge. This solicitation number is B24-05-46A. It was publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. 140 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity, and 2 suppliers accepted the invitation, and PRT received 1 bid to provide solid waste and sludge removal and disposal. Services, the services are for PRT facilities over a 2-year period with 1-year renewal option available. In accordance with the procurement policy and procedure, a single bid survey was conducted. And while one firm stated that the scope was outside of their specialty, 2 other firms were interested, but they were not prepared to provide the quantity of various containers requested in the specification. However, the potential bidders did convey to PRT that they would be interested in the solicitation in the future. It is procurement's recommendation that the contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Republic Services, in the estimated amount of $1,770,441.12. This pricing represents a 22% decrease from the previous contract prices for these services 3 years ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The last item on our agenda, number 9, is for bottled water services, and PRT is requesting to piggyback on the state contract. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of General Services Cooperative Purchasing Program has awarded a bottled water contract to Primo Water North America. Recently, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania exercised a 1-year option period with the contractor that is effective through June 30th, 2025. PRT wishes to utilize the option year under the terms and conditions of the state contract 44000-24676. The services on this contract includes the delivery of bottled drinking water and provisions and maintenance of water cooler. It is procurement's recommendation that a contract be awarded under the same terms and conditions of the Pennsylvania Department of General Services contract to Primo Water North America in the estimated amount of $53,000 for a 1-year period, which expires on June 30th, 2025. Staff has determined the pricing on the Pennsylvania state schedule to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budget. Pending any questions, procurement respectfully requests approval of the committee to move all items forward for the full board consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Do any of our board members have any questions? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
Motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, Ms. Brown, would you like to present the PRT's tentative schedule for upcoming solicitations?
Yes, please, and thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited to be able to present our upcoming procurement opportunities. I would like to preference with saying all potential bidders are strongly encouraged to register as a supplier on our e-business platform for real-time notification of bid opportunity and advertisement. Suppliers can access PRT e-business platform by navigating to ebusiness.rideprt.org. The following list includes projected advertisement and bid opportunities in our OEM, MRO, bus and rail segment of the House of Procurement, and they are within the next 6 months, the intent to advertise. But please note that this list is subject to schedule changes. I have a total of 18 items, and I'll just run through them. The specification will be made available at the time of the bid posting. Number 1 is fare box replacement. Number 2 is the point of sales terminal. 3, BRT phase 2. Number 4 is the general planning service. 5, digital communication services. 6, budgeting software. 7, waste oil removal services. 8, LRV split disc brake rotors. Number 9, asbestos-free brake blocks assembled on shoes. Number 10 is railroad cross ties. Number 11 is differential gear lubricants. Number 12 is graphic film and pre-masking tape. Number 13 is bus manufacturer inspection oversight services. Number 14 is contactless smart fair media. Number 15 is Panasonic Tough Books. Number 16 is remanufacture/new/exchange turbochargers. Number 17 is operators, maintenance, supervisor uniforms. And number 18 is maintain, inspect, and test fire systems. That concludes my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate having a sneak peek of what will be coming up in the committee in the future. Do any board members have questions? Hearing none, we will move on to the next resolution, which is a request for authorization to extend and amend agreements for investigative services. And I welcome Amy Silverman.
Good morning, committee chairperson and committee members. I am not Mike Cetra. However, you can see he's on today. He's out of town, so I'm presenting this resolution on his behalf. But
hello, Mike.
Good morning, and thank you again to Amy for presenting in my absence, physical absence today.
Absolutely. So this resolution would authorize PRT to extend its agreements with a pool of firms to provide investigative services on an as-needed basis via specific task-specific work orders. Following our public solicitation process for professional services, the board authorized us in June of 2020 to enter into agreements with a pool of firms to provide these services for a primary term of 3 years, with 2 optional extension years to be exercised at our discretion, with a total not authorized not to exceed amount of $200,000. Last July of 2023, the board authorized the exercise of the first optional extension year to extend agreements through September 30th of this year, with no increase in the originally authorized not to exceed amount. The services provided under these agreements include external investigation and related professional services to support our processing and defense of workers' comp, non-occupational and related personal injury claims, including locating and interviewing witnesses, gathering documents, and other evidence relevant to claims, and transporting claimants to independent medical examinations. PRT staff recommends exercising our second option year to extend agreements with the pool of firms identified for the proposed extension in the resolution. This is CSI Corporate Security and Investigations, Inc., Specialty Private Investigators, Inc., Command Investigations, LLC, and Giddings Private Investigators through September 30th of 2025, with no increase in the originally authorized total not to exceed amount. So subject to any questions that committee members may have, I would respectfully request that the Performance Oversight Committee recommend this resolution to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Does any board member have a question? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next resolution is a request for authorization to award construction contract for the Mount Washington Tunnel Rail and Pavement Replacement project, and we welcome Greg O'Hare.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
this resolution seeks authorization to award a construction contract SYS 2403 for Mount Washington Tunnel Rail and Pavement Replacement. The scope of the work generally consists of embedded track replacement, concrete pavement replacement, tunnel liner, shotcrete repairs, temporary traffic control during construction, pavement marking replacement, overhead catenary wire support component replacement. The project duration is 152 calendar days.
This project will consist of a tunnel closure starting on approximately March 1st of 2025, and will last approximately for 5 months. There will be a detour over on the old Allentown line. The low responsive bidder is Mascaro Construction Company LP with a bid of $16,146,035. So for some illustration purposes, in the upper right-hand side of the screen is a view from inside the Washington Tunnel. This picture shows the embedded rail in the concrete that allows both buses and our light rail vehicles to traverse through the Mount Washington Tunnel. On the left-hand side is a location view that is slightly zoomed out just to illustrate the location of the Mount Washington Tunnel. The red line is where the tunnel is located through Mount Washington that traverses from South Hills Junction to Carson Street on the south side in Station Square area. The right-hand picture is illustrating where the detour is for this particular closure. There's a dashed red line and a dashed yellow line that indicates normal vehicular traffic for the buses and for the rail lines through the tunnel that go through Station Square and then into downtown. During the closure, there's a purple line that goes from and through South Hills Junction, up and over the Allentown line, over Mount Washington, down towards Station Square, and then across the Panhandle Bridge. That will be the detour for the light rail vehicles across the Panhandle Bridge. The buses will detour and go across the Smithfield Street Bridge and resume their regular route. Pending any questions, I respectfully request the committee to move the resolution to the full board for consideration.
Yes, I have a question as it relates to notifying and engaging with the detours for 5 months with any residents or local community people. We just had to find out with that, so I know we're prepared to.
Yes, absolutely. And Jim can elaborate on that. We've already started that process of coordination, but I'll step aside and let Jim elaborate.
Aren't I surprised?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Jim Ritchie. I'm the communications officer here. We have some time, so we have a lot of time to engage with communities and neighborhoods, not just communities where the service will be disrupted and the service will be taken away, but also going through Allentown, and there's neighborhoods there, and we already work with some neighborhood groups in those areas that we're going to be engaging with too, just to discuss the train now going through that community where they're not used to that every single day. But of course, just like we have for some of the current projects on the rail system was alluded to earlier, we'll be really blitzing the rail line with people at stations, customer service. Some of our SDA folks will be out there in person, very effective. We always kind of joke that we go out to the stations and people tell us they're sick of seeing us, right? Because then, they've heard it, they know what's coming, and they know what their options are. So you'll see much of the same kind of work that occurred this year will happen in advance of this. I'd say the community engagement work that you're asking about specifically would occur over the last half of this year, though.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Actually, okay, just as a follow-up. I'm just curious if you can recall the neighborhood groups that you'll be working with.
I don't know yet specifically. What we do for any of these projects, just like the Red Line project, we will sit with our the service folks, in this case, the construction team, and find out specifically where this work is occurring. We want to see specifically, for instance, rail's a little easier than buses, but which routes are affected, which stops sometimes are affected. They may be transfer points, for instance. So we want to get a feel for what are those audiences that we're trying to reach. It may not just be obvious right off the cuff, and we want to get a good sense of that. I think that in some of these cases, just looking at Allentown, for instance, there's groups there that are fairly vocal about rail service. So we want to work with them, but we don't want to ignore anybody either. So we will identify that. It's something we could bring back to this committee and talk about a bit more as we get closer, and just update who we are engaging with, what we're hearing from them in advance of this work. As we started this year, there's a lot of rail work happening over the next few years, and this is one of these big projects, so it's going to get a lot of attention. And we just, we'll take a lot of time over the latter half of this year to get ready for the start of next year. We're not going to wait till January. Hopefully by January, we already know who those groups are, what the plan is, when we're going to be out at stations. We'll have materials ready to print and so forth, and those groups will have heard from us by then.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also have a question. Can you tell me what the average travel time is through the tunnel currently versus how long the trip will be on this detour?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and here's Amy. So we're going to
I'll tackle that one because we're in the discussions right now about finalizing the plans for service, because we are, like we did this summer for the rail line, we are planning to try and get these changes into our February service changes so that everyone can see the real schedules, the real time of the vehicles. They know exactly how long it's going to take. So my best understanding, and Chuck Rumpal is not in the room, but he'll correct me later, I'll make sure, is that the tunnel is about a 2-minute travel time now between Square Station and South Hills Junction Station, which are the two stations at either end of the red and yellow dashed areas there. And that the Allentown, up and over Allentown, is about 7 to 8 minutes longer. So 8 to 9 minutes or 9 to 10 minutes instead of 2 minutes. Yeah. So we will be planning to build that extra time into all of the schedules for our late February 2025 service changes, so that the trains aren't running late either. That's also very helpful to our operators so that we aren't, putting that strain on them either.
Okay, well, thank you, because looking at the map, it looks as though it would be a much longer difference between the two. So I am encouraged to hear that. So thank you. I appreciate it.
And I will also note, City of Pittsburgh has also been very open to a few questions about signal timing changes that we have asked for to support the movement of all these vehicles that are not normally running through the Allentown neighborhood. And they've been very supportive of that too, so.
Okay, good. Thank you. Does any other board member have an additional question? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next resolution is to request a request for authorization to enter into an agreement to provide legislative consulting services. Mr. Jim Ritchie, thank you for coming back. And would you present this resolution?
Sure. I want to update you with a change. So I'm up here just to first apologize because we made a last minute change to the agenda. So this is still on your agenda, but we have pulled it and we want to bring it back to you in September. We don't have meetings in August. So we're going to take that time, but I'm just up here to make sure you're aware that that change was made. And unfortunately, it was made after your agendas were sent out. So.
Okay.
It's not today.
Is there a reason for the?
It just wasn't ready. We tried to get it ready for the meeting and we thought we were ready, but we're going to take a little bit more time and be sure before we bring it to the board. So the contracts don't expire till October, so we do have a little bit more time to work with. Sure.
Okay, thank you. The next resolution for the committee today is a request for authorization to extend and amend agreements with a pool of firms to provide information technology consulting and support services. And we are looking for Jeffrey Devlin. Could you kindly present this resolution?
Yes, good morning. And I need you to say that 3 times fast, please. Yes,
I'm not going to try.
Good morning. We have an existing contract with a pool of firms to provide information technology consulting and support services. And they actually span about 8 different categories, ranging from software analytics, application software, infrastructure needs such as our network, information security training and a few other areas there. As I said, the contract exists today. We have an initial 4-year term that's expiring this September with a total not to exceed of $8,639,200. We are requesting that the board enable us to extend this for the next year of the contract. There's no increase needed to the total not to exceed. We just need to extend it for the following year to continue these services. Subject to any questions, I respectfully request this be taken to the full board. Thank you.
Does any board member have a question?
How are we rating their performance if we're extending?
Yes, well, what we have are 7 different firms on this contract. We do work orders with them for a variety of things. For example, one of them is our radio system needs to be upgraded. So we're working with a firm to help us take care of the upgrade to the radio system. So all of the firms are acting in accordance with the contract and are sufficient for our needs. So we're expecting to continue to work with them.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to advance this resolution to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. This is the end of our agenda today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. And I believe this is our last committee meeting for the day. So I want to thank everyone for attendance. We do not have any meetings in August, so we will see you in September.